Good evening, everyone, and hello. My name is Andrea Lopez Herrera, and I am an investigator with the Prince George County Office of Human Rights, the county's civil and human rights education and enforcement agency. Our office investigates complaints of civil rights discrimination, combats human trafficking, ensures equitable language access to county government resources, and works to build community across diverse peoples. This evening, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to another Empowering the Game event. Empowering the Game, one of our series with the Prince George County Memorial Library System, highlights incredible athletes who are game changers in their sport and in their communities. With me as co-host tonight is Kyla Hannington, the Public Outreach and Engagement Division Manager with the Office of Human Rights. Tonight, we are thrilled to have with us Prince Georgian's Khoi Young. Khoi Young is a student athlete currently pursuing his education at Stanford University. Much of his athletic success revolves around gymnastics, where he has proudly represented Team USA in a various international competition, earning multiple medals and on the world stage. At school, he is studying product design. He aspires to blend his passion for achieving excellence in athletics with the creation of innovative physical products. His goal is not to only excel in the realm of gymnastics, but also to contribute to the design and development of products that can help the next generation reach their own versions of success in the sport and in life. Welcome, Khoi.
Hi, so my name is Khoi. My story started back in Bowie, Maryland. Uh, as a very hyper and energetic young one, my parents put me in a lot of sports. I did basketball, soccer, karate, gymnastics, swimming, and I even did play piano for a bit. But I ended up staying with gymnastics for whatever reason. And for about 15 years, I trained at Prince George's Sports and Learning Complex in Landover. And I learned how to train, how to compete, how to balance school and sports, build many relationships. And I did that for about 15 years until I graduated around 2021 and I came to Stanford University. Since then, I've been doing much of the same, learning how to train with a collective group of guys who all just want to win a national championship. Um, Gotten great opportunities to compete internationally and win a couple medals at Worlds last year. I think we have some photos. If you put those up. But I won a couple medals at Worlds last year, and that was a great opportunity and experience for me. And just doing that and meeting so many great people, I just can't wait to get back on the floor and share many moments like that with people I really cherish.
Oh, thank you for that. So, you said that you started off at Sports and Learning Complex here in Prince George County. So, how exposure to that, was that something that you saw like a lot of people going to?
Well, it's mainly my parents. Actually, I'm not sure why my parents put me there, but I think they knew it to be just a great facility and knew that it had a lot of sports and a lot of things to keep me busy. So I went there and started off with the mom me classes, or my mom would bring me down. I'm like maybe 2 years old, and teach me how to do some forward rolls and learn how to stretch a little bit. And I just found that fun for some reason. Um, so I was really just involved with that facility before I even realized it. So it wasn't really much of a decision for me.
Gotcha.
So you mentioned that you did a ton of sports, right? So you said karate, you did swimming, gym. Like, how did you? And I mean, well, actually, let me ask you this: how many of those sports are you still involved with now? Do you still do an array of sports?
I do not, unfortunately. Gymnastics is a very time intensive sport. That was mainly one of the reasons why I had to specialize. Cut a lot of those sports out because gymnastics was very demanding. I loved basketball. I didn't like soccer too much. I loved swimming, but I had to make the business decision to stick with the one I found the most enjoyable for me, and that happened to be gymnastics. Every once in a while, I'll go back to piano. Every once in a while, I'll shoot some hoops with friends, but nothing more than that.
So What age were you when you had to make that, as you said, the business decision? Like, when did you have to say, okay, I gotta just focus here?
I believe I was about 8 or 9. I had to
Wow.
make, yeah, big life choice. But at that point, I had a lot of coaches telling me that, it was going to be very important that I spend more time in the gym because of travel and just hours in the gym were going up. So I had to make the choice.
Wow.
That's a big choice to make at such a young age that, you know. Wow. Okay. So since you had to make that decision at 8 years old, like what are ways we can make more like people aware of gymnastics for like young people that, maybe you're looking for that same opportunity to like get into gymnastics.
Yeah, the thing about gymnastics is it's optimal to start as young as possible, just because it's very difficult to gain the flexibility, gain the strength that's necessary later on as you get older. But I think it's great. It's a great sport to have young kids do because it teaches a lot about discipline. It teaches a
Mm-hmm.
lot about sticking with things, even when they're not going right. Like not having your split all the way down, not understanding how to do the cartwheel. It really teaches valuable life lessons. So I think looking at sports from an angle of lessons should really encourage people to get involved, especially their kids, to learn very important lessons at a very young age. I think I learned a lot of things before the age of 10 that may take people who didn't have the same opportunity to be in gymnastics many more years. So just understanding that gymnastics comes with a lot of benefits outside of the physical realm should encourage a lot of people to try it out.
Did you I guess what I want to know is like, so you're young, you're 8 or 9, you're doing all these different things. It sounds like, as your own words, you were really active. You loved being active. Have there been moments like, I want to, have you loved gymnastics all the way through? Let me put it that way. Or, I know sometimes when we're very devoted to something that we can also go through periods where it's like, wow, what have I taken on? How has that journey been for you?
Yeah, I remember distinctly there were some moments, definitely when I was younger, where I was witnessing my friends in my neighborhood having like playing outside a lot more. I'll be in the car going to gym and they're out playing basketball, and I used to play with them a lot, but now I don't have the time. Or a lot of my friends after school would stay after and watch the football games, watch the basketball games, but I had gym in 30 minutes, so I had to go. So there are moments like that where I just thought to myself, like, all my peers are having fun, getting closer, and I'm doing gym, not really reaping the benefits yet. So there were moments where it was hard for me to realize what I was cultivating. But you know, these days, rarely do I experience that. Being amongst a group of guys that love the sport, getting the opportunities to travel internationally and have friends that don't even speak the same language as me. It's so gratifying that it's difficult to regret any decisions I've made
Hmm.
in sport of gymnastics. So it took a little while, but I'm there.
So what kind of opportunities? Sorry, Andrea, but I just,
Go
as
ahead.
you're talking about traveling, like, can we talk about a little bit of this? Like, what kind of opportunities? And I will just, maybe it will be helpful to you if we orient my own ignorance, which is that I really know nothing about gymnastics. I don't know what it means to be on the national team or how long you might have been on. So, if you think of these questions I have coming from a place of really not knowing, and probably some of our viewers, it's the same. So can you take us through like when you start having at what age you were when you were like, oh, okay, this is really going somewhere. I'm traveling, and what was that like coming out of Bowie for you?
Yeah, it starts very early, honestly. So I'd say in gymnastics terminology, level 5 gymnast, maybe level 5, level 6, you're around 9, 10 years old, and you get to travel to I'm from Maryland, so we would travel to Pennsylvania. Sometimes we would go up to New Jersey, DC, Philadelphia, just areas really close. Just a nice, fun road trip with mom and dad
Mhm.
in a car for a couple hours, stay at a hotel, go to Wawa's. And it's a little fun vacation, get to compete. Um, and you notice that a lot of times you're traveling to these places, you see the same guy every time. And then
Mhm.
every time you see him, it's a friendly competition with your friends, but you want to beat them and stuff like that. So that's when I realized that this is kind of interesting. There's something about this I really like. And then as you get older, level 9, level 10, you're around 12, 13, 14. That's when you can go to regionals and nationals. Now these are trips you might have to fly to Houston. We flew to Florida a few times, and we'd go as a team. My teammates at Sportsplex, which is the team at the Prince George's Learning Center. Um, we would all go and travel together, and there would be hundreds of gymnasts, guys I've never met, and their skill level is much higher than mine. And I realized, wow, I'm maybe not as good as I thought I was. So I'd go
Mhm.
home and I'd be training, just thinking about that trip at the end of the year, that opportunity that I'll get maybe next year. So that's when I realized that this this is really giving me something to like strive for. And then once you get to the elite stage, which is NCAA college level for most of for male gymnasts, that's when you get the opportunity to go international. So you make national team. I've been on national team since I'd say 2018, and you get the opportunity to. My first trip was to Hungary.
Wow.
It's my first trip overseas. It was beautiful. The food was great. The people were awesome. The buildings were colorful. So I was like, I need to do this. I need to do this every year. I've been to Hungary. I traveled to Stuttgart, Germany for a competition. Been to Paris, and most recently, I was in Antwerp, Belgium for World Championships. So
Wow.
it's you can fill up a passport pretty quickly doing gymnastics. I'll say that.
Wow. Wow.
So you mentioned, getting to that, as you're progressing, right, to the next level, and as you're going. So, what does it mean for you to represent like Prince George County in such a high level like that?
Yeah, it's it's a great feeling knowing that I can be representative of my area. Um, there's not many male gymnasts in the country for one, not many black male gymnasts for two, and then on top of that, from my area. So for me to be able to achieve the things that I have and strive for the things that I hope to achieve in the future, I hope it stands as somewhat of a confirmation that anyone can do this. We have the ability to do this, and we should be doing this. So it's my favorite part. One of my favorite parts of the sports is seeing that there are young ones looking up to me and cheering me on and telling me that they want to be just like me, which is weird because I was just like him. I'd say like maybe 2-3 years ago. So
Right.
I don't know. It's a weird feeling, but I'm grateful to be in this position.
Wow. We actually already okay, there's so much I want to ask you about the travel and like just those experiences. I will say we actually already have a question from a viewer, so I'm going to put that up right now. The question is, what financial support is available for young people who may not be able to afford to travel?
Yeah, well, it depends on what level and what you mean when you say young person. So when you're in the sport, the I believe there's usually a booster club, which means that the parents come together and contribute money to help take these gymnasts to these competitions. They help support them financially. If you get to a higher level, that's the national level, in which you're most likely traveling, you're flying somewhere, traveling overseas. That's usually taken care of by the whatever national team you're a part of. So USA Gymnastics pays for me to go. to Hungary, to Germany, places like that. But it's really dependent upon the community that you're doing the sport in. So that's the simple answer, I would say.
Okay, but that's good that it's not that it doesn't fall solely on you, the national team or your regional team or your parent, depending on your age, that there is support. So people who are interested, because one of the questions that, Andrea and I talked about this and before, one of the things that we were talking about is what are maybe barriers to the sport for people, and I guess the question may be if finances may not be a barrier, but people may believe that finances are a barrier, which then means that they are, right? So can you talk a little bit about accessibility for people to get involved with gym?
Yeah, I think that's one of the drawbacks from the sport. Definitely, it's 100% not the most inexpensive sport in the world to take part in. But I do believe that it's one of the sports that you can gain the most from. Once, for one, like I mentioned, there's usually a booster club of parents and a community that can help financially support these gymnasts. But once you achieve a certain level of excellence in the sport, you're able to advocate for yourself in terms of national team support and NIL and things like that. So I think whatever endeavor you take part in, even if it takes a lot on the front end, if you stick with it, there's a lot of benefits that can come afterwards that will make the initial investment worth it. But I do think gymnastics compared to other sports has a more difficult financial burden, but I personally believe that it would be worth it, depending on your situation, of course.
Right, right. And if I just wanted to, and I'm sorry about this because I feel like I kind of cut you off with the audience question. And, Andrea had asked this great question to you about what does it mean to you to represent Prince George's County at this high level? And one of the things that you talked about was, there's not being a man, being a black man, being a black man from Maryland, all of those things that are maybe like underrepresented in gymnastics or not something you don't necessarily meet a lot of people from Maryland. I mean, can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, have you found people receptive, or how has your journey been?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I was younger, I found it much more difficult to be proud of the sport I did because I would go to school and the big talks were the basketball players who was playing, who made the football team and stuff like that. And I was the one, maybe two. There's only one other gymnast throughout my elementary school, middle school, high school career that I knew, and it was she was on my team as well, but it wasn't a male gymnast. So it was hard for me to, stand tall and be proud that, oh, I'm a gymnast. I'm the only one. Like it's just hard to, feel as though my sport meant something and my achievements in my sport meant something. But I tried not to think about that too much because I love the sport so much that when I saw people from around the country getting the support they deserved, I kind of fed off of that. I took some for myself. As I got older, and got better at gymnastics and started receiving maybe verbal support from coaches, from athletes around the country, then whatever happened locally didn't matter because I knew that once I get to a certain level, people would recognize that this is awesome. So it definitely was tough at first, only because the sport is small and people don't really recognize it as much. But I hope that my efforts nationally, internationally, and on social media, the things I like to post and bring awareness to, help to make gymnastics a little more commonplace, and men's gymnastics more specifically commonplace in my area for my people.
Mm-hmm. Right. Thank you.
No, I love how you said that. Trying to make it more equitable. So, like, our first launch of this series was lacrosse, and I think lacrosse definitely may be a little bit more popular than gymnastics, but lacrosse isn't as popular as in other places, like the same way that it is here in Maryland. So like I went to college and I played lacrosse, so I can kind of feel that that. And I'm thinking about it in more of like a college setting, that because you're still currently in that setting. So how do you balance that this opportunity of, you know, competing at this high level, but still balancing like school at the same time, and those challenges that, you know, you face as a college student, whether that's like, you know, mentally, physically, and or, you know, just emotionally as well?
Yeah, it's been difficult, and I'm still figuring it out. But I think one of the most important things that has helped me, let's say, survive so far at school is being intentional. I hear this all the time in the gym. It's like, be intentional with every turn. The sport is dangerous sometimes if you're not focused. So be intentional on what you want to make better. Be intentional about um, what exactly you're trying to fix about your gymnastics. So taking that and applying it to school and study and stuff like that is just as important. Being intentional about what I want to get out of the day, being intentional about what I eat for breakfast, what's going to fuel me and give me enough energy to go to classes, go to gym, and stay up and study until whenever I need to. Just being intentional about the conversations I have, being intentional about what take notes on what the professor is explaining. That's really transformed my days from very lackadaisical. I realized the day had ended before I even got anything done, to being very structured and very um, I got a lot more done when I was very intentional about what I wanted to do. Because when you realize when you're able to get things done, you have more time to not get things done. When you get everything done, you can do whatever you want. So just being a little bit more focused and what's a better word? I guess targeted with every action is some imperative to surviving such a difficult schedule. Let's say that.
Okay.
That's pretty inspiring, actually. I feel like I could be a lot more intentional in my life when I'm not in university and on a national team for anything. So that's really good. Can we talk a little bit? I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I'd love to know what you talked about in your bio. We hear a little bit about what you're doing in school, which is product design.
Mhm.
Can we talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's really interesting. And I don't know much about that either. Like, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a extremely fun major so far. It's essentially mechanical engineering, but
Okay.
more focused on I guess aesthetics is I guess would be a simple way to put it. I get to have a lot of design power, and a lot of the classes are very creative. So I have a very I have a focus on what I want to make firstly and how I want to make it. So it's a lot to learn about physics and material science and things like that. But um, I think it's very cool that I can think something up in this crazy mind and actually have a physical product
Mm.
born from it. So it's been a cool major so far.
How do you plan on, or do you plan, which would maybe be a better question, how do you plan on intersecting that with gymnastics?
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of inspiration from one of my older teammates named Ian Gunther. He's designed some products that would help gymnasts recover, not just gymnasts, athletes in general, recover from muscle soreness, muscle tightness, and I think that's such a cool way to apply the academic world to the athletic world. And I really want to follow in his footsteps in that way, to take a lot of the ideas that I have and the expertise that I have in gymnastics and build something that would aid in recovery or fix some of the equipment that I think is difficult to work with. make gymnastics more safe for athletes. Just things like that, I think would be a really cool way to mesh my two loves, I guess, my two passions.
Gotcha. Thank you for that.
Did you go to Stanford? Was it gymnastics that brought you there, or the interest in this particular program?
Funny story. It was initially, so I in fourth grade I just researched on my phone what's the best business school, and it said Stanford. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to go to Stanford. And then about 3-4 years later, I found out they had a gymnastics team. I was like, oh wow, even cooler. So initially it wasn't even gymnastics, but
That's some
I got
focus. I'm
I
like
got lucky.
fourth grade you was like, I know I've got my eye on the prize. That's amazing. And I think it probably speaks to how you've gotten to where you are. I have a question. I'm going to put up these pictures again because take me through how it works. So I love this picture, by the way. This is wonderful. And take me through how gymnastics works for you. Like, do you specialize in particular? I don't know if event is the right word or a particular form. Can you tell us about what type of gymnastics you do?
Yeah, so my sport is artistic gymnastics. 'Cause there's also rhythmic gymnastics and trampolining, but I do artistic gymnastics, which for the men has 6 events: floor, horse, rings, vault, P-bars, high bar. And I do all 6. At Worlds last year, I was able to pull off a silver medal on the vault and the pommel horse, which are my 2 best events.
This is pommel horse, right? Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's horse.
And you got a
Yeah,
silver. All right. Okay.
I do all 6. I do all 6 for the team Stanford here. Yeah, it's pretty tough, but I think no, I won't say that. Never mind.
Okay, so I just want to go through this. So pommel horse, we know, we just showed the picture. Rings, I think most people know the rings.
Cross,
Floor
yeah.
routine. What else did you say?
Parallel bars.
Okay, parallel bars, and then
We have vault,
okay.
and then we have high bar.
So high bar is the single bar that.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that one. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Is it scary to be up on the bar?
Yes, it is. It's not. It gets less and less scary, but it is scary. I actually competed high bar at Worlds. It was the last event, and the 3 guys that were up for the USA, it was me, my teammate Paul Judah, and my teammate Fred Richard. That lineup was going to decide what medal the team was going to get, because if we all fell, we were likely not going to get a medal in place. So the tension, it was high. It was very nerve wracking, and that's when the gymnastics is the most fun. When you know the stakes are high, you got to stay on your feet, you got to stay on the bar, and we all pulled it off. But funny story is, after I competed and my teammate was up next, I was just thinking, I cannot believe I just did that, and I can't believe he's about to do this. Like, that's how scary and adrenaline rush that I had. Yeah, that event is scary for me still to this day.
Yeah.
So what's your thought process when during those like nerve-wracking situations? Like, how do you like calm yourself and just stay composed when like what you have to do is such a big deal?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's just like when you want to get stronger, you practice doing a workout. When you want to get a skill, you practice. So a lot of what we do here at Stanford on the team is put ourselves in the high pressure situations. We'll have teammates cheering. We'll turn up the music real loud. We'll have the coaches judge your routine to make sure you feel like you're being, like, every deduction is being seen. So just having those moments behind me gives me a lot of confidence. I've done this before. This is easy. It's the same routine I've been doing. I know what it feels like to be in this high pressure situation. So eventually when I go to Worlds, when I go to these international competitions, I can just click on autopilot. I've been here. I've done this. My body already knows what to do. It's just got to do it.
Gotcha. Okay. And to get to that, did you see that came like naturally, or is this something like you had to train your mind to start thinking like?
Me personally, it's honestly like competing has been my favorite. Like the adrenaline makes me better.
Mm,
So for whatever reason, I compete 5 times more than I train. So it honestly came natural to me. There were definitely things that I had to learn about that process. I can't just salute the judge and just release all my energy. I have to control it. So there are definitely things I still had to learn, but um, the competition is where I really excel, I believe.
okay.
So I know you said that your parents, got you really involved. You're doing the mom and me at the Sports and Learning Complex. So are your parents really out? I don't know if you have other family as well. Do you come from an athletic family?
My parents are pretty athletic. My mom did field hockey. My dad lifted weights when he was younger, got big and strong. My brother and my sister both did sports when they're younger. So sports and athletics in general, definitely a part of my DNA. There's no avoiding it. Um, so just happened to get lucky to have the body that was built for the sport that I chose. So
Mhm. Well, I was thinking, like, as you were talking, I mean, so much of what I think you've been sharing with us tonight was really about the mental game, right? And so you've talked about your intentionality, you've talked about focus, you've talked about the adrenaline, you've talked about having to make a commitment at really a young age about, like, okay, I've got this drive, I'm going to go this way, not only in terms of gym, but also like, okay, I'm in fourth grade, who's got the best business school? There's some really wonderful and I think unique attributes. And I want to, first of all, give you credit for those. That was you who decided to be that and have that focus. And I'm also wondering, in what way do you see, your family's influence on that kind of drive and I'm presuming they were supportive of this drive from you and making sure that you had access to the things that you wanted.
yeah, absolutely. My mom being an educator, she definitely drilled into me that school and education is one of the most important things in life. So that was easy to pick up, and I really stuck by that. And my dad being very motivational with just about any task. If you're gonna take out the trash, your goal should be the best trash taker outer there is. If your job is to help people cross the street, you should be striving to be the best crosswalker there is in the world. So like having those lessons built into me from very young, it was hard not to want the best education possible, and strive for it and want to stay in a sport and strive to be the best in my sport. So I am not me without the lessons I learned from my parents, 100%.
Mhm. That's great. I also had a dad or I still have a dad who would say exactly the same thing, like, whatever you do, be the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, his example was, if you're going to dig ditches, which is, to be the best ditch digger you can be, that was, and I think that's a really important lesson. And I like to hear that you heard the same thing from your dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Still think about that lesson every once in a while.
Yeah. Shout out to dads and moms.
Yep.
So maybe you've answered this, but just to let's dive into it more. But what does the platform that you have right now mean to you?
Um, definitely it feels like a pretty big obligation, considering that I think I may be one of the few ways people hear about men's gymnastics. So I have a big obligation to represent my sport in a way that I feel is representative of the sport, not to be redundant. Um, so I definitely want to make sure that I'm showing the sport in a way that I feel it deserves to be displayed.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to bring sort of a lighthearted energy to the things that I do. There's no doubt that the sport is difficult. There's no doubt that there are tough days, but I really want to show that it's still fun and that there's definitely there's great benefits to putting your all into something, achieving excellence in it, and showing the world what you've done.
Thank you. I think that's really important.
How is the transition to Stanford for you? Like, you are on the other side of the country. Like, how was that?
It was pretty tough. It was pretty tough. The schooling was much more difficult. Um, I went about a month enjoying the freedom from my parents, having my own room and stuff like that. And then it hit me. I was like, man, they're pretty far away. Time's different.
Yeah.
Time change is much different. Then it hit me. So that was definitely difficult. Learning how to be more responsible for, showing up for my teammates when they needed it. Being a good teammate, that was something I had to learn. And yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. I'll say that it's a lot of trial and error, figuring out what routine works for me, um, what what is the right way to interact with my coach, what is the right way to teach gymnastics, what is the right way to fuel my body from school to gymnastics. I can't just have my mom's cooking every night. I have to build my own plate and make sure that it's gonna be nutrition enough for me to do my sport. So it was a lot of trial and error, and I think I'm starting to. I definitely have figured out a lot of the things that I struggled on early, but just giving myself time to fail, giving myself time to um, do the wrong thing helped me figure out what was the right thing finally.
That is a great quote, which, giving yourself time to do the wrong thing gives you the opportunity to figure out the right thing. That is so important, because I think often we beat ourselves up if we get things wrong, we make mistakes, that we don't have generosity and compassion towards ourselves. But to recognize that it is a chance to learn and figure out the right thing is awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, another lesson I learned from gymnastics: learning a new skill, undoubtedly you're going to get it wrong the first at least 50 times. So just knowing that it's going to be wrong, but you have to be wrong to get right. You just know that it's a barrier you have to cross.
That is great. Thank you. I'm writing that down.
So, Khoi, moving forward, what are some goals that you hope to accomplish, as your career begins to progress and, you develop the skills and so on?
Well, being an Olympic year, my main goal, which has been my goal for the last 20 some years, has been to make an Olympic team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my biggest focuses this upcoming year. Another one of my goals is to help my team win national championships this year. We've won the last 4 years in a row, and no team has ever won 5. So I might have lied. I think there's only been maybe 1 or 2 other teams that have won 5 in a row. So that's one of my main goals this year. Goal that comes before all of that is to remain healthy. The sport is difficult. It's easy to tweak a shoulder here and there or something like that. So just taking my rehabilitation and my stretching and my strength very seriously to make sure that my muscles can maintain throughout, August, September is one of my main goals for this year. So it's going to be a long year, but I'm ready for it.
So tell us about the national, so you mentioned it's Olympic year, national championships. When are these? Like, when are the trials? What does your look like?
So for the NCAA, we'll have our national championships in April.
Okay.
Soon after that, we'll have USA championships in, I believe, May. And then Olympic trials will be either June or July. And at the Olympic trials is when they'll decide the team.
Wow. Okay. So one of the things that I wanted to know, and I think this is a great time to ask it, is like, so you're from Prince George's County. I mean, we heard about you because, you're all over Prince George's County news and on social media. People are so excited about you. What is something that how can people here support you?
Any way they can. I post a lot on social media. I think it's funny. Sometimes it's funny. I don't know, but I think seeing some of the stuff I post online, just staying up to date with what's going on with men's gymnastics, I'd say just give it a try. Like trying to watch a competition, especially NCAA's. That's one of the most exciting competitions until USA's, and I think it'll be fun to see myself and many of my other teammates and friend enemies across the universities battle it out. So I think just come and watch, turn on the computer and watch. Just any way you can watch, I think would mean a lot to me and would mean a lot to the guys that put so much work to compete.
That's great. Where are the NCAA championships being held?
Ohio, University of Ohio.
Okay, so for people at home, you heard him say going in person would be awesome, and I'm just saying you can drive to Ohio from here. So I'm gonna plant that seed. All right.
You don't have to. There's plenty of online, and I'll be uploading where the links to find stuff online. So find my social media, and I'll lead you where you need to go. So.
I've been putting up your Instagram. Do you have other social media that you want to tell people about?
I do. I'm also on YouTube.
Okay.
Just search Khoi Young and you'll find it.
Awesome. Andrea, I'm going to grab that link. Do you have a question, or do you want me to? I'm going to grab your YouTube link in just a second, but let me just ask one more question about the NCAA is in April. The national championships are in May. And so how is that different than NCAA? NCAA is just for college or university, and the national championship is for anybody, any age group?
Anyone in the elite level. So you have to qualify to USA championships. But once you're there, you don't have to be affiliated with the university to compete. It's just whoever is of that caliber can go to USA's.
So that's a different age, because I have a friend who's got a young daughter, like a 9-year-old daughter maybe, and I know that there was a competition she just went to recently in gymnastics. Was there just a recent gymnastics competition like in Arizona or something? But that may be different. I mean, do different ages get together?
Yes and no. Like very young, like 6-7-year-old, they'll separate them by age. 6-year-olds compete against 6-year-olds, 7. But once you get to, once you get past 18, 19, you're just in a group with everyone who's 19 and older. So there are a lot of guys that, like one of my teammates at World Championships was Yul Moldar. I believe he's like 27 now. I call him old all the time. But like I'm just turning 21. I'll compete against him at USA's. So once you pass a certain level, it's everybody against everybody.
So one of the things that we were wondering is like, and this is kind of like not to put you on the spot, but here we go. What do you have words of encouragement for people?
Yeah. Let me think. Yeah. I'd say that be very, again, intentional about the activities that you do and the goals that you set. Make sure that the activities that you're doing align with your passions. It's very difficult to reach goals in an activity that you don't really have a passion for. You just want to reach the goal. So me personally, I've seen many athletes at my level that just want to win something. They don't really find enjoyment in the process. They don't find enjoyment in doing a difficult circuit or doing the strength or falling 100 times. You've got to find the enjoyment in the failure, the enjoyment in the difficulties, because the person that does that gets a lot further than the guy who only finds joy from the end goal is what I believe and what I have used to fuel me these years. So enjoy the process. Enjoy the process more than the end goal. I think is very important.
That's great. I hear that echo again of just intentionality, thinking about what you want. And I love this part too about enjoying the process and like learning from, or I don't think you use the word learning just now, but kind of enjoying the errors, enjoying things when they don't, when it doesn't work out. And I think that that is probably, I'm just thinking about, you're a young person who is exceptional athlete. Uh, you're doing amazing at school. You're at an elite institution. And I think what I'm seeing is just how this attitude of intentionality and focus, but also joy and what I'm also getting is this kind of lightness about you. Like again, we're not you're not abusing yourself if things don't go your way, that you're learning, you see it as this learning opportunity. Like that just seems like your attitude is just taking you so far. And that's awesome. It's really inspiring.
Thank you.
We're having some great comments in here, actually. And I've been putting them on the screen, but I'm just going to take a moment and just read a couple of them to you in case you haven't seen them come in. We have one that says, Mr. Young is a world-class athlete. His thoughtfulness and wisdom will carry him far beyond gymnastics. We had another one, super proud of you, great lessons. We have one, great tips and advice for everyone. I wish you the best. Break records. You control your dreams. And have you seen work pays off? Very proud of you. So I think we've got some family here that's, echoing some of those messages. And you speak with my granddaughter, your little cousin. She's back in gymnastics, and you're probably the best one in the world to guide and inspire her. So, I think not only am I being really impacted, but I know people who are tuning in right now are really hearing that from you, this incredible attitude. It's great.
So Khoi, you mentioned how you're you go to these competitions and you have, little kids coming up to you and they're saying like, yo, you're like, I want to be like you and you inspire me. Do you have anyone who inspires you or has been your role model in this process that you've been going through?
Yeah, my favorite answer to that question is my dad. He's definitely given me the tools needed to build all that I've built. So without him, I couldn't have done any of this. So, really falling in his footsteps and taking the advice he has given me to heart has really allowed me to build off of those foundations. So I really try to think about any scenario in which I'm in. I think, what would my dad do in this scenario? And try to formulate my own actions based upon that. So that would be my number one answer.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
That's awesome. So we do have a few more minutes. So if you have questions, you haven't had a chance to ask them yet, please take the time. If you type them into, certainly if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we should be able to see them and share them here. So please pass that on if you have anything. I guess really I'm thinking, and we may have covered this. So I apologize if there's something that one of us has already asked you, but one of the things we wanted to talk about is like, were there barriers that you felt that you had to face or have faced or are currently facing, just in terms of getting to where you're at in gymnastics?
I definitely do think that the lack of participation in my community definitely affected me a little bit as I got older. I witnessed at Sports and Learning Center as you get older, there's less and less athletes at your gym because people stop participating. People get too big for the sport, they get too tall, or they just don't love it anymore and things like that. So as I gotten older, level 9, level 10, I was 15, 16, 17, I found myself as like one of 3 other guys that stuck with the sport. I think that was one of the hardest things that I had to deal with. especially with my transition from the junior competition levels to the senior competition levels, which is the high school to college level essentially. And I knew that there's a lot of guys around the country that had a huge team of guys to build off of, to motivate them and stuff like that. So I think that was one of the more difficult things that I dealt with a little later in my career, where it was harder to feel that same sense of community that I did when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah.
Is gymnastics, and I think Andrea may have already asked this, and I apologize because I don't remember the answer. Is gymnastics something like in Prince George's County or in this DMV area? Is it a well populated sport?
I do think it is on the women's side more so. It's very popular. Um, I'm not sure about DMV on a major as a whole, but I don't
Mhm.
think it's very popular in Maryland. But on the women's side, it's pretty big. A lot of great gymnasts come from this area, come from the Maryland area on the women's side.
Well, I think you're probably like no pressure here, okay, but you're probably single-handedly raising the profile of gymnastics in Maryland for men. To see somebody who's just doing amazing things out there, I think is really inspiring. I think there's going to be, kids out there and parents who maybe haven't thought about it, who are going to be like, oh wow, here's an opportunity. And I love that you got your start right here at the Sports and Learning Complex, which of course we do so much, such a central part of our county here. So.
Yeah, I sure hope so. I love the sport. I love the people in the sport, and I love all the opportunities it's given me. And I want nothing more to share it and show it off to everyone, so that maybe they'll take part in it as well. So
Yeah. Well. So I have an Olympic related question. Sorry, Andrea, and then I'll punt it over to you to close us out here. But my question is, going back to your sports. So you said, you do these six. So it's artistic gymnastics is the area that you specialize, right?
Mhm.
Which is these six events, right?
Mhm.
So if you make it, for the national team, when you compete, do you make the national team for all six events, or do they? Is it only some of them that you would make it, or if you made it to the Olympics, would you make it for all six of those things, or just some of those? How does that work?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a relatively difficult question to ask. I mean, question to answer. Sorry. Um, so when you go to the USA's is where you would make the national team, US championships, and you would compete all the events you do. So some guys only do two, some guys do three, some guys only do one, and you'd compete all the events. I would do six, and I would make it based on how I do on all six events. And the guys that only do three, only do one, they'll pick up points depending on how they score and how they place. So once you make the team, then it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get sent anywhere. So you can make team and never travel internationally and never compete. You'll make team, and then from there you get chosen. Various selection procedures occur, but you get chosen to go compete with a certain amount of guys. Now, this team is chosen depending on the skill sets of the guys in this team. So if the competition calls for 3 people to compete on each event, it'll probably be a 5-man team. If the team is very strong on rings, I most likely wouldn't compete. But if the team needs someone to compete on rings, I would do rings. I'm very good at pommel horse and vault, so I most likely would be doing those regardless. So it really depends on how the team is formulated, who's on the team, and the same goes with making national team. If the national team needs a guy who's really good at rings, and you're the only guy who's really good at rings, your chances are high. If there's a bunch of guys who are good on horse, and you're only good at horse, you're not good at anything else, it'll be more difficult for you to make the team. So it's really dependent on who's all in the pool.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is not only your level, but it is really like what are the strengths and weaknesses of the other people.
Yeah.
Okay, that is really interesting. I do have a question from a viewer. Okay, so to do with the Rubik's cubes, how did you learn to master the Rubik's cube, and does that somehow connect to how your mind works in gymnastics?
Oh man, I haven't done a Rubik's cube in a while, but I used to do it a lot. Uh, I think it was a series of YouTube videos I watched to learn how to do it, and then I convinced some of my gym friends to learn it, so that I could beat them at it. So I learned it, and then I taught them, and then the challenge was to do it the fastest. So the whole goal was so that I could prove that I'm faster than them at solving it. In terms of that related to gymnastics, I think the whole approach, the intentionality again, the approach, being able to sit in front of a cube and devote how many hours it took to figure it out. It definitely it takes the discipline, it takes the patience. All that is the things that I learn and apply every day to gymnastics. So any difficult task, I will utilize the skills and the skill sets that I've acquired through gymnastics.
Mm-hmm. Great. Also, I love the fact that you mastered it so you could beat your teammates.
friends.
Really
yeah, everything's a competition.
I love that. Love that. Andrea, do you have a question just to close us out here? We just got a couple minutes.
I don't have a question, but I do just want to say thank you for, being here with us today. I think the impact that you have, whether it's small right now, I think in the future, it's going to be something that it's going to be huge. And I just think, you're doing such a great job. The wisdom that you have already is just going to carry you so far down in life and get to all those goals and dreams that you have. So, it's truly an honor to have you here, and the knowledge that you've given us on something we truly didn't know much about is, it's remarkable.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I love feeling like I'm back home, even if it's through a web call. So thank you for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. It's been great. And I do want to also echo what Andrea said. Thank you for being here and for who you are. Like, it's been really inspiring. Like, I think 30 years older than you. And I was really deeply, personally, like really touched and inspired by what you were saying. So it's really not only young people who you're having influence on, like right now. And so people who are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We are the Prince George's County Office of Human Rights. We're bringing this to you tonight in partnership with the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. So you heard from Mr. Young. You can check out the NCAA Championship in April, nationals in May, and then we'll be looking for Olympic trials in June or July. So stay tuned. Check him out on Instagram, his YouTube channel. And, for parents out there, kids, there's so many wonderful sports, and we have so many opportunities here in Prince George's County. And now you know about gymnastics. And so we hope that you are inspired to try something new yourselves. I do want to let you know that you can check out more things that we have coming up by going to civilrights.mypgc.us, going to our webpage. And I want to make you aware of in-person event we're doing on February 22nd. We're having an interfaith conversation looking at finding light in the darkness. How do different faiths give people hope in difficult times? So we hope you can join us for that. That's going to be at Hyattsville Mennonite Church at 7 p.m. on February 22nd. And we also have a weekly conversation with the University of Maryland called Social Justice and Communities. It's every Thursday at 2 o'clock. So we hope you can join us in a couple of days for that as well. And so, again, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Mr. Young, for being with us, and for all that you're bringing to the sport, to the county, and obviously, as Andrea said, to the world. So, good night, everybody. Thank you.